Okay, good evening, everybody. Please, if you can hear me, type yes in the comment section or in the chat box so that I know that you can hear me. All right, Vanessa, thank you. Joyce, thank you. Can anybody say a short prayer for us so that we start our class for today? If you want to say a prayer for us, kindly unmute yourself and start praying. Okay, Joyce, sorry, can you say a prayer for us? I hope you guys can still hear me. Okay, Joyce, you can go ahead.
Hello, please, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you. We bless you for our lives. We thank you for the opportunity to meet once again. Father, we are here to learn. We pray that you help us and you give us retentive memory to remember everything that we are going to learn here. We also commit our leader into your hands. We pray that you give her more knowledge and more insight into whatever she's going to teach us this evening. At the end, we'll give you all the glory. We bless your name and we thank you for an answered prayer. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Joyce, for praying for us. Okay, so once again, you are welcome to today's class. We should all start introducing ourselves in the chat box. Just your name and what you do. So whether you're a student, you are working, you're a business owner, or you are an entrepreneur, so that we can all connect with each other. So I'm Francisca Arhinful, and I'll be your host for this training. I have here with me to Mr. Makafui Michael, and he will be our guest trainer for today. I'll introduce him in due time. So for now, this training is organized by the Smooth Transition Help Center, that is SMOTHEC, an initiative I started in collaboration with BrandAd Ghana, founded by our guest trainer, Mr. Michael. So today's outline is very simple. We just want to look at the general overview of designing. So this is our overview for today. I'll introduce myself. Our guest trainer will introduce himself. We'll talk about graphic design, who a graphic designer is, what exactly do graphic designers do, examples of some of the graphic designs we have, some tools graphic designers use, different job roles for graphic designers, how do one become a graphic designer, and why should one become a graphic designer? So this is our outline for today. I hope we will not go over our 1 hour time limit. So just to go straight to the point, because I don't want us to keep long in this class for today, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. So apart from all the grammar you see on your screen, which you can take your time to read later on. I'll also share the slide with you so you can take your time to read later on. I want to just give you a brief background of myself. So as I've already said, I'm Francisca Arhinful. Most of my students call me Miss Franca. I don't know why they give me that name, but most of them call me Miss Franca. I was born in a small town in Central region in Ghana. It's called Ejumako Kokoben. It's very close to Bisiansi. I think most people know Bisiansi, but most people don't know Kokoben. I left home when I was 13 to go and stay with my aunt in hope that she can support me when I start senior high school. I was almost losing hope. But then my dad called me one day and said that I've gotten a scholarship, which was being offered by Canva Ghana to go to senior high school. I didn't get Apam Senior High School, but that's one of their partner schools. So I ended up attending Apam Senior High School. And my senior high school wasn't easy, but I got help from Canva. So it was quite successful. I passed my exams. And while we were in school, we keep hearing that if you pass, you can then apply for the MasterCard Foundation Scholars Program at Canva, which is also a fully funded program to go to university. And I got in, I applied and I got in. But they have a policy for you to stay home for a year before you could apply. So I stayed home after my senior high school for a year before I could apply, and I ended up in the University of Ghana. During the COVID, which started shortly after we started our university, in 2022, I started learning graphic designing. So Canva gave everybody on the scholarship a new laptop, you know. And as a village girl that I was, I didn't really know how to use a computer or a laptop. So I didn't really know what to use it for. So I went around looking for a movie to watch, and I got a lot. So I started watching movies on my laptop. Then I saw a WhatsApp saying that you can learn graphic design with Photoshop, and I joined and I downloaded Photoshop. In the first or two classes, we were only drawing shapes and adding colors and all that, but it was fun. And also, I was using my laptop for something productive. So that's how I started learning graphic design. And since then, I've learned a lot. I've joined a lot of graphic design programs. I've gotten my certificate from TVED, Canfed, and Atomic Energy Commission. And I've also trained a lot of people in graphic design. Graphic design has also given me an opportunity to be a leader in so many organizations and also hold professional roles in so many organizations. Now, why did I start SMOTHEC? I started SMOTHEC because I feel like we don't get people to help us transition into different aspects of our lives. So I've taken it upon myself that when somebody completes school and they are looking at, oh, what can I do after school? I'll guide them through to, oh, you can start a business, you can go to university. If they want to go to university, do they need a scholarship? I'll guide them through the application process and then also how to get scholarship opportunities and also train entrepreneurs and business owners on skills that are like very lucrative in the industry right now. So hence one of the things why we're organizing this training. And I'm very glad to have our founder of BrandAd Ghana also joining me. He's also a digital skill trainer advocate. So today I'm really excited. I'll introduce him briefly. Then I'll also share his profile link in your chat box so that you can connect with him. I'll share mine as well so that you can connect with me later. So moving on, let me introduce our guest trainer briefly. I hope we can still hear me, right? Can you all still hear me? Great. Thank you for responding. Okay. So our guest trainer, Makafui Michael, is the founder and CEO of BrandAd Ghana, a creative agency with specialized sub-brands such as BrandAd Creative for branding and advertising, BrandAd Studio for photography and videography. He has over 10 years of experience in designing and branding. Yeah, I have almost 5 years and he has 10, so he knows a lot. Makafui earned his graphic design and web design certification from IPMC Ghana. Since then, he has worked as a freelancer with organizations such as the African Union Network, Arhinful, Possible X Creative, Always Posh, and many other brands. And if I say many other brands, a lot of brands. Currently, he freelances with the African Union. I hope we all know African Union, right? Where he recently contributed to the 13th GMAC Youth Advocacy Training and the 45th GMAC Network Summit project. You can research on that later. His flyers are all over the internet. He also serves as the senior photographer at Butterfly Effect Concept. Beyond work, Makafui enjoys researching, watching movies, and spending quality time with family. He believes in creating meaningful connection through both his professional and personal life. If you ask him about life, he will say nothing happens until you make a move. And I think I believe in that too. So you can connect with him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Pinterest. I beseech all of you to go through his Pinterest account. There's a lot of nice things to see there. So without wasting my time, I will invite our guest trainer to take over the presentation and start teaching us something we don't know. And Mr. Makafui, thank you so much for joining us today. Now the floor is yours. Okay, yeah, I will allow you in a minute, please. Please give me a minute as I unmute Mr. Michael.
Hello, everyone. Hello. If you can hear me, just type okay or yes or anything else. All right. Thank you, Miss Franca, for the wonderful introduction. I'm very glad to be here. And then thank you for giving this opportunity and platform to connect with these amazing people, and then to have this opportunity to learn. The introduction that Ms. Franca gave, I think it gives me a little goosebumps, but it is nice to hear other people introduce you when you are used to introducing yourself all the time. So before we continue, I just want to give like a short summary of my version of introduction. So I'm Makafui Michael. I'm a creative entrepreneur, the founder of BrandAd GH, which is a BrandAd Ghana. I specialize in branding, print, web design, helping business craft bold and impactful visual identities. So beyond design, I'm passionate about digital entrepreneurship, education, and then photography. I believe in creating solutions that not only look great, but drive real results. And then I'm excited to connect and share insights with you all today. All right, so we are moving on up to our very first order of the day, which is what is graphic design? Graphic design mostly is an art or even a practice of creating visual content to communicate information. So It's basically just combining elements such as color, images, layout, shapes, and then typography to produce designs that inform, communicate, it could also inspire, it could also captivate an audience. And then graphic design at its core serves to visually solve problems and then enhance communication. It can be seen in most advertisements and brochures, business cards, magazines, newsletters, and even digital products. So a good design not only looks appealing, but also ensures the clarity and then effectiveness in delivering an intended message. All right, so an example should be if a brand needs to advertise a product, you definitely need a form of graphics to, convey the message. At the same time, also to find a way to communicate to the targeted audience. So if the product is, let's say, an energy drink, that is to a specific audience. So the graphic designer is now responsible for creating a visual that would align with that targeted audience. All right. So one may ask, who is a graphic designer? So as graphic design is a medium through which we communicate or convey an information to a targeted audience. Being a graphic designer, you are that person that communicates. So once you're able to communicate through the use of typography, color, shape, and then there are tools that you use specifically to do these things. Okay, so some graphic designing tools like Adobe Photoshop, which most people have heard a lot about. There's also Adobe Illustrator. There is the very commonest one right now, which is Canva. These tools help the graphic designer to be able to create those designs for branding and then marketing and then social media and so much more. So before I continue, I want to ask if you're following, so far what I have been, sharing with you. I need you to send an okay or yes if you're following. All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let's continue. One may often ask, what do graphic designers do? I know when people ask, what do graphic designers do? Everybody has their, fair idea of what graphic designers do. So I'm going to give you a few examples. And then graphic designers create, for instance, logo and then branding, which is designing brand identity for businesses. And then we have marketing materials. So we have graphic designers who do marketing materials. So marketing materials, for example, are posters, flyers, or anything that you use for advertisements. And then we have social media graphics. So a graphic designer is able to design social media graphics for posts, banners, and then templates. And then graphic designers also, design websites or UI designing. So the UI stands for user interface. So user interface design. So for instance, if you go on Instagram or Facebook or on TikTok, the way the website or the platform, let me put it this way, the platform is positioned and projected. So where you see your profile picture, where you're supposed to like a post, where you're supposed to share, where you're supposed to comment, it is graphical. So all the things that are visual that you can see, those are the graphic aspects of the designing. And then we also have packaging design. So graphic designers also design packaging designs, which is labels and then mockups. And then we also have illustrations and then infographics. So most of the time, illustrations and infographics are used to visually represent data and concepts. So for example, if we are supposed to say convey the statistics of, let's say, last year's budget for agriculture in Ghana, you can graphically use illustrations to, better communicate and then present that data. Okay, hope you guys are following. Next slide. Yeah, I'm done. Can you hear me? All right, I apologize for that. I was on mute for a minute. All right, let's continue. So examples of graphic design. So branding and logo design. So companies like Nike and then Apple and then Coca-Cola, their logos were done by graphic designers. So being able to design a logo is a graphic design. So someone who does logos is a graphic designer. And then we have business cards and then letterheads, and then there is brand identity guidelines. So brand identity guidelines is basically like rules that govern how a company should use their logos or branding materials in a specific way. So that can relate to the type of color that they use, the way a logo is supposed to be presented on an advertising material. So I would use Coca-Cola for example. If you notice, Coca-Cola, most of their branding materials can only have their, deep red, bold background, and then you have their logo in white. If it happens that the logo has been slanted or tilted in a way, it goes against that rule. So the brand identity guidelines sort of like keep in check, so that if it happens that they change their graphic designer, they still have these guidelines there to guide the graphic designer so that the brand still maintains its consistent look. All right, so the next example of graphic design is marketing and advertising design. Most of the time, I enjoy doing advertising, designing, and then marketing materials because it's really, really fun. So being able to help bring about like new products and then being able to create visuals that would help communicate or reach a targeted audience through this medium is really, really fun. Then most social media graphics, I know most of us are common with that because we see it all around. If you're on Instagram, you scroll a few, profiles. All right, let's continue because we don't have much time. We were talking about the examples of graphic design when the line went off. Patricia, could you please mute your microphone? All right. So examples of graphic designs, websites, and then UI or UX. So I explained earlier that the UI stands for user interface. Yes, so UI stands for user interface, and then the UX stands for the user experience. And then we also have website layouts and then landing pages. Yes. So as you can see on your screen, we took the liberty of, having examples of the websites, the layout, and then the landing pages. And then as a graphic designer, you can also design interfaces for applications. So an application like WhatsApp, someone actually designed the interface. Pat Ann, can you please mute your microphone? Another example of graphic design is print and editorial design. So those who work with the newspaper agencies, the magazines, the books, and then the ebooks, and then there are newsletters and then reports. Next slide. Another example of graphic designs is packaging design. So most of us are familiar with the new Kivo products on the market now, and then they are everywhere. Someone actually came up with the idea, the concept for the packaging design. So anytime you see the product in town, you can easily recognize or identify it by the design. So there are also labels and then stickers and then box packaging designs. And then one of my favorite, this is actually something that I was doing when I first started out as a graphic designer, which is a t-shirt and merchandise designing. So custom t-shirt prints, and then there's mugs, tote bags, phone cases, hoodies, and then cup designs. So as a graphic designer, you also get to do motion graphics and animations. So animations for social media ads, YouTube intro videos, and then we also have videos that explain stuff. Okay, so it could be a video that is explaining how to take a medication, how to unwrap a packaging, or it could also be an information that teaches how to go about something, like how to sign up for an event, buy tickets, stuff like that. All right, so as a graphic designer, there's a need that you should have tools that you work with. in this case, you have to pick a tool and then master. If possible, you could have like 3 or 4, maybe 5, depending on how enthusiastic you are about learning a graphic design. You could learn 2, 3 or more tools. And if you're able to learn more tools, it goes a long way in your favor. So examples of common tools that graphic designers use are Canva. There's also Photoshop. There is Adobe Illustrator. There is CorelDRAW, which I think is one of the oldest softwares for designing. There is Procreate, which I only got to find out about some time back. There's also Figma, which is also used for designing. And then there is Adobe InDesign. You could, search them on Google, read about them, and then get familiar with them. All right, so with Canva, for example, if you're looking to do like a quick edit, for a client, Canva has templates that you could edit, change the text, realign, change colors, or basically just change the information quickly, like on the go. You can also have access to it on your phone if you don't have your laptop along, with you. You could access it directly on your phone. So it's a very good tool, as in it is like a ready going tool. So wherever you are, you could access Canva online once you have data. And then Photoshop, mostly people use it. I know people say Photoshop is for editing pictures. Yeah, it is one of the things it does, but Photoshop also does a lot more. You could use it to do flyers, design anything at all that you can think of, any branding material. Um, um, Photoshop is actually for pixel-based, graphics. So any graphics that has pictures in them, your go-to software should be Photoshop. Adobe Illustrator, on the other hand, is actually a vector-based software. So it's also good for text designing. It's also a good tool for mostly designing like flat, like two-dimensional designing. The same also goes for CorelDRAW. I think CorelDRAW has the same similarities with Adobe Illustrator. It is also used for two-dimensional designs, mostly vectors. All right, it's also great in using to design logos, because most logos are two-dimensional and then they are flat. You can manipulate a lot of this thing there. If you can hear me, send an okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. But please, if it could be louder a bit, it would be of help.
All right. Is it okay now? Can you all hear me?
Yes, it's a bit louder.
All right. Okay. If your microphone is on, kindly mute it. All right. As a graphic designer, there are different roles, that you could, find yourself in if you are drawn to designing user interfaces for applications and then user experiences. You can become a UI or UX designer. You can also become a brand identity design. So before I continue, let me say this. You can be good at doing all this, but you'd have to specialize at a point. So that is where the different job roles come in as a graphic designer. So you can also become a motion graphics designer. You can do marketing and advertising. You can also become a packaging designer. You can also specialize in editorial and then print design, which is the magazines and the newspapers. You can also become a freelancer. So you do a little bit of everything. So how do you become a graphic designer? So first and foremost, becoming a graphic designer requires a mix of creativity and then technical with a lot of practical experience. Because the tools that you're using, you need to be practical. You have to practice to get, very good. And then becoming a graphic designer takes time. You don't need to be too hard on yourself. You have to take it little by little as you go. If you are an enthusiastic person and then you feel like you can't wait for anybody and the time is now, you could use every free time that you get to learn everything else that you can learn as to becoming a graphic designer. So the first thing that you can learn to become a graphic designer is knowing the fundamentals of graphic design. So understanding the basic design principles like color theory, you need to understand typography. You need to also understand layout and composition. And then you also need to understand branding and visual identity. Note that it is essential that you learn the fundamentals because going onwards, it is these fundamentals that will shape you into becoming a good graphic designer. Another thing you should also bear in mind that you should get yourself familiar with the design tools. So being able to master the tools used for graphic designer. You need to master these tools. So as we mentioned earlier, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, there's also InDesign, the use of Canva, Figma. There's also Adobe XD for user interface and then web design. You need to master these tools. It is very, very essential to becoming a good graphic designer. So platforms that you could use to learn how to become a graphic designer is Udemy. There's also Coursera, there's LinkedIn Learning, and then there's also the most popular one, YouTube. So you can join for free, or you can pay for online classes, or you can enroll in a graphic design degree or certification course, or you could find someone who could mentor you. And then I'm giving this tip out for free to become, especially when you're beginning as a graphic designer, you need to have people that you look up to. So you could follow designers on Pinterest. Most of the time, I personally follow graphic designers on Instagram for inspiration. So you need to look at what is out there, what people are doing, then you find a way to sort of like fit in. And then you need people that will inspire you, because when you're beginning something, it feels hard. But when you know that there are other people who are also doing what you want to do, it sort of like gives you some hope. All right, another great thing you can do when beginning as a graphic designer is build a portfolio. This is very, very important. You need to build a portfolio. So if someone asks that, are you a graphic designer, or you tell someone you're a graphic designer, this is what would show that yes, you are a graphic designer. So you need to have a portfolio that showcase your best work. And I repeat that again, showcase your best work and skills. So this could include logo design, social media graphics, posters, websites, anything that you worked on as a graphic designer. You need to have them organized into a portfolio. So you can use platforms like Pinterest, which is one of my favorites, for sharing my works. You can use Instagram. There's also Behance. So Behance is a very good platform to showcase your work. There's Dribble, and then you can have like a personal website that showcase your work. So people have to type into like Kwabena Boafo, something.com. And then when people click that link, they go and then they see all the works that you worked on. And then you could practice and work on real projects, like real life projects. So you can do freelance work on platforms like Fiverr and Upwork. I don't know if most of you have heard of Fiverr and Upwork. It is like a freelancing platform for graphic designers and other creatives. So you pitch for jobs and then you get clients, they pay you in dollars, then you get commission jobs. And then you can also volunteer for small businesses. So as a startup graphic designer, it is, so to speak, a little difficult getting, someone to actually pay for commission jobs. So whilst you are starting, because you know that you aren't there yet, you haven't found your feet yet, you could volunteer for small businesses. And by doing that, gather everything that you worked on, and then you add them to your portfolio. You can also apply for internships, and then in that way you have like a real life experience, like a working environment, how designers work, and then come up with like being able to collaborate with other teams or people, come up with something. You can also join design communities on Facebook. There are a lot of them, like so much learn from there. You can also join platforms like Reddit, and then there's also LinkedIn, which is like a more professional, platform that you can, connect with other people to find job opportunities. Are we together? Okay, guys, are you following? If you can follow, if you are following, you could send a yes or okay. So one of the things to do to keep updated and stay learning, like as a graphic designer, you need to stay on trend. You need to know what's out there, so that no one sees your design and say that your design is backdated or it's not really giving the vibe, or like what most people say, let it pop. So you need to learn graphic design trends. You could read books on graphic design. And an example is The Elements of Graphic Design by Alex White, which is a very good ebook that you can have access to. You can follow industry leaders, so people who are already in the industry, who are really doing well for themselves. You could follow them and then also learn from them. And then you can also experiment on new tools and styles. You don't always have to like follow the trend. You could always come up with your own trend. So you could and because it is a creative skill, you can come up with your own stuff, and then always ask for feedback. If you design something, you can show it to a friend, you could show it to someone who is like a mentor for them to give their feedback so that you see whether you're on track and all. And then you need to choose a specialization. It's very important. As a creative graphic designer, you cannot do everything. As much as there are so many things that you can do as a graphic designer, like being able to do brand identity, doing flyers, marketing material, packaging, motion graphics. You need to have a specialization so that you narrow down your niche, yeah, so to speak. You can't do everything. So being able to do a little bit of everything is good. Having knowledge on other, creative things that relate to graphic design is good, but you need to have a specialization. So you can specialize in brand identity design. So you design logos and visual branding for companies, businesses. It could be for individuals. You could also design marketing materials for social media and print. You could do packaging designing. You could also specialize in motion graphics, mostly animated graphics and then videos. Okay. So the reason why you should specialize in a specific, you should specialize in like a specific part of the graphic design is so that you increase your job opportunities and then your freelancing opportunities. That's very, very important. So this question is asked mostly by a lot of people, especially people who are new to the whole graphic designing thing. You ask that, why should you learn graphic designing? First and foremost, it's a high demand job opportunity. So as a graphic designer, companies need us, graphic designers, for branding, marketing, and digital content. It's like they can't do without us. They're like hotcakes, so to speak. So industries like advertising, the tech companies, e-commerce, the entertainment industry, for example, because people are always releasing music, cover arts stuff. They need graphic designers. So like it's on high demand. Graphic designers are on high demand. And then one thing too is you get to work remotely. So you can actually be anywhere in the world and still be a graphic designer. You don't necessarily have to be in like an office space. You can be in the comfort of your home and then still do jobs. And then you have creative freedom and self-expression. So graphic design lets you turn your ideas into visuals. So graphic designing, visuals. Always remember that graphic designing, visuals. You communicate your ideas through visuals. So you can create logos and website posters and a lot more once you become a graphic designer. I know most of us pay people to do stuff for us, but if you get to learn it for yourself, you get to do all these things. So there's this work flexibility, being able to freelance, and then also do full time. So if you are the type who prefers to be employed by a company, you have your 9 to 5, you work as a graphic designer. You could also have the freedom to be able to have flexible hours. So when you freelance, you choose the type of jobs that you do. And then you get to also work like from the comfort of wherever that you are. You have flexible hours too. So instead of being employed by a company as a freelancer, you work within your time limits. So if you decide that you are working like 4 hours in a day, you work on 1 or 2 projects and then you're done. That's like the beauty of it. And then you could also have multiple streams of income. As a graphic designer, you can actually have multiple streams of income. So you can design t-shirts, you can sell templates, you can also sell digital design. So you could do a flyer and then you sell the template design. There are platforms that do that. And then you don't actually, I think this is one of my favorite things, you don't actually need to have a degree of some sort to be able to become a graphic designer. And you can learn at your own pace. You can learn at your own pace. You take your time and then you learn. No one should rush you because it's your thing you want to do. If you want to become a graphic designer, you learn at your own pace. And then there are online courses that you can take. So you don't necessarily have to be like in a classroom where someone is teaching. You can have online courses, especially when you are the type who moves around a lot. You could take online courses. And then there are affordable software that you could use. So most softwares that are used for graphic design are actually paid for. So Photoshop, and so I would say Adobe applications, most of them run on subscriptions and all, but there are free tools that you can use. So we have Canva. You have Canva, and then there is a Figma. So another thing that you should note is that your impact as a graphic designer. So your designs influence how brands and websites and people connect. Okay, you can work on meaningful projects for like NGOs, startup businesses. You can work on you can work in the education sector or health sector. You can work in agric, all doing graphic design. So you could also be seeing your work used in real life. So you go online, and then I have flyers all over, depending on what you type in. Like the recent project that I worked on for GMAC. GMAC stands for Gender is My Agenda campaign. You can research on that later. Being able to see your flyers out there and that you're actually making real impact is a very fulfilling thing. All right, so for business owners, so those of you who have businesses, being able to learn graphic design means that you get empowered to build like a strong brand and market effectively. So instead of contracting other people to do your marketing materials for you, to do your branding, if you are able to learn graphic design, these are the benefits that come with it. So you get to also say do your own stuff. So instead of having to pay people to do your branding works for you, you get to do that by yourself. And in this case, you end up like saving money. So for instance, I do all of my branding stuff. I don't contract anybody else to do it because I am able to do it for myself. So for small businesses, you can't ignore, design. This is like your chance to actually stand out. Being able to do high quality graphics will differentiate your business from other competitors. Okay, you also get to build like a brand image that will attract, customers and then investors. So even with a design team, learning graphic design also helps, business owners communicate ideas clearly. So you can get a better feedback. You can make quick edits because now you are a graphic designer. And then you get more control over the creative direction or how you want things to go because now you are able to do the graphics by yourself. And then the knowledge of graphic design that you would have would enhance collaboration. It will reduce delays because most of the time when people seek other graphic designers to do stuff for them, they can't tell exactly what they want. They're not able to communicate, what they want effectively. But if you know graphic design for yourself, because you have much technical knowledge about the creative process, you're able to communicate better. And then if you work on a team, it goes a long way. It reduces delays and then it helps you to work smarter, make it branding really cool. All right, I want to say thank you for joining. If anybody has a question that they want to ask, you just so if you want to ask a question, you could raise a hand or something, or put it in the chat box. If you want to ask a question, I'll call out your name, then you ask your question, and then we take it on from there. All right. Chobi is asking a question, and the question is, when do we start practicing? All right, so we would start practicing on the 3rd day of the class. All right, so tomorrow we'll do fundamentals of designing, and then on the 3rd day, after we begin the class, we will start practicing. Is there any other question? And then Chobi, if I've answered your question, can you give me a response? All right. Rufina, thank you too. Does any other person have? Okay, Kwabna Boafo, I've seen your question. So Kwabna is asking if startup firms need brand identity, can they do that as well? Yes, of course. Every business needs a brand identity, regardless of what business or entity it is. You still need a brand identity. So if the basic thing that a business would have is a logo, which is most common to people. So once you have a logo, you definitely need a brand identity. You definitely need a brand identity. Kabna, if I've answered your question, kindly respond. And if there's anyone else who would want to ask the question, you could type in the comment section. So you mean a firm? A firm, as in like a law firm? So yes, you can provide a brand identity.
Can I? Hello? Hello, Makafui.
All right, Kwabna, if I'm getting your question correctly, you're asking if my firm can provide a brand identity. Yes, we do provide a brand identity. Yes, it is a service that I provide. So if you need help with a brand identity, I could help you to start up one. If I've answered your question, kindly respond. You're welcome. Is anyone else who has a question?
Hello. Hello.
HP, kindly type your question in the comment section. Prince Adams, kindly type your question. Okay. All right, Omar. Omar, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that. Prince Adams, you can ask your question. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Please, thank you.
Yes.
My question is, as you mentioned, some of the apps that we can download. Yes, we are familiar with some of them, like Adobe, Lightroom. But my question is, as a company that does a lot, both in terms of graphic designing, logo, all the example that you give, like video things. So which of the apps will you recommend? One or two should be used, because we sometimes go on an assignment that we need to do videos, and that, so in that case we need to do the video animation and that thing. So please, which of the apps will you recommend? Thank you.
English media.
Flava, kindly mute your microphone. Okay, Prince Adams.
English in Hey,
Hello, everybody. So our meeting will end soon. I'll share the next class link so that we can rejoin, so that we can answer our questions. Hello, can you all hear me? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up or say yes in the chat box.
Hello.
Just want to see if I can hear.
Hello, does anyone has any question to ask? Salif, do you want to ask a question?
No, please.
All right, we have someone who has a question. Nyamike, is it Nyamike? So, Evant, your question is if you can pick a template on Canva and edit and then customize it without any interactions, or is it advisable to do so when you can't do a design from scratch? So, I think being able to have a template and then edit it to your preference, it's a plus, especially when you have a very short time frame to deliver the flyer or artwork or whatever it is that you're working on. If you prefer to design from scratch, you can actually dismantle the template and then find a way to, start from scratch, depending on the, creative idea or the vision that you're trying to come up with. Okay.
Okay, Ivan, so when it comes to Canva, you can start your design from scratch or you can choose a template, then edit the template to suit what you are going for. So you have the information, you know what you're trying to communicate, right? After you've done your research and also after you've gotten the inspiration on what you want to do, if you scroll through the Canva template and you see something that works for you, you choose it, then you can edit the elements in there to fit what you are working on. Or you can start a new design and then start from scratch, putting all your elements in the fresh Canva. So we will go through all this later in our practical session. So don't rush so much into it. Okay, is there any more questions? If there's no more questions, I would like to end the meeting. Thank you all for joining. It's been an amazing meeting so far. Thanks to our guest trainer for also joining. I believe we've learned a lot. I will share a short quiz tomorrow morning so that we can all answer and refresh ourselves on what we've learned today. I'll also share tomorrow's class link tomorrow morning. Tomorrow class will definitely be on fundamentals of graphic design. So we are going to look at the color theory, typography, how to use template and all that. So make sure you join. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye.
I'm joining the. I'm going off of